What's up guys, it's your girl Faith and I'm back with another video for you guys. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you guys. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So I'm very happy today because today is my 23rd birthday and I thought to create a video where I share with you 23 lessons at 23. So yeah, I hope whatever I have to share today will be helpful to you at whatever point you are in your journey. So yeah, let's get into it. So lesson number 1, be careful not to wear conditions like anxiety and depression like you would a badge of honor. Instead, be conscious of it and make the necessary mental and environmental changes to treat it. In this day and age, we are more conscious and aware of mental health, and they're doing the changes in our society so that we're more accommodative of things like that, and we're educating everyone about it, which is great. But I also notice at the same time that a lot of us, myself inclusive, have just been dealing with stressful situations by saying, oh, I have anxiety, respect that. I have depression, you should respect that. But we're not actually addressing those issues because they're not things that we should want to or desire to go through life with, really. It's a problem, that needs to be addressed. That's how I feel anyway. So it's something that I've learned to do, not to use my anxiety or the fact that I do deal with mild depression be an excuse for how I deal with stressful situations. There are better ways in which I can handle things without having to affect myself mentally when it comes to my health. So yeah, so lesson number 2 for me is learning to show up for myself just like I would a friend in need. This is something that I had to confront myself with, the fact that I tend to show up for my friends as much as I can, show up for my friends and my family members in ways that I don't show up for myself when I really need it. I don't have the energy to be there for myself, and I don't think I can do it, but it's easier for me to do it for someone else. And I've come to learn, especially through this, it's been a stressful few months, but I'm coming to learn that I need to be able to show up for myself. I need to be able to push myself to just be there, to support me, because that's very important. I think it's great to have a community and a support system around you, but you also have to be able to show up for yourself, So yeah, lesson number 3. Your mind is not your enemy. This is something that my boyfriend has come to teach me, and I've learned to see the truth in that. I used to think before that the voice that I would hear that would say the most negative things about myself was my enemy, but in actuality, it's not. And I have learned to shift my perspective of that voice from an enemy to a traumatized child. And how do you address a traumatized child? In the simplest ways, you are patient with a traumatized child. You want to teach the opposite of what they're used to, and you want to be loving and caring. And so looking at that voice that way has taught me to be more gentle with myself, and it's been a healthier way in which I can address the issues or the things that I actually tell myself which are not true. So I hope that makes sense, but your mind really is not your enemy, and the sooner you start to look at it in a different way, the healthier you get, I believe. So yeah, lesson number 4, learn to reflect on and celebrate your life. That is something that I hardly ever do, and it's something that I'm now learning to do. I think it's very easy to point out the flaws in yourself as well as your life, the bad situations, but it's important to actually reflect on your life, because then it shows you what the good things are that you have and the good things that you've experienced are, and it helps you just celebrate your life in general and who you are. And in the long run, you realize that it actually helps you realize your value even more. So, yeah. Lesson number 5. Humility means admitting when you need help and accepting the help when it's given to you. I liked to do things on my own. And sometimes I wouldn't tell people around me when I was struggling. And that's not okay. We're all human, we need each other. Whether we want to admit it or not, we do. And so it takes humility to just admit that you need help when you do. And there are people who will be there, God sent people who will help you in your time of need, but it takes you being humble about it. Sometimes we stress so much over situations that other people are able to assist us with, but we're so busy trying to deal with the situation on our own, and that's not healthy. So it's something that I've come to learn, and I'm really grateful for the people who've been there to help me in my times of need and just show me that that's what humility essentially is. Learn to analyze a situation before you react to it. Oh my God. This another lesson that my boyfriend and my parents have come to teach me. Learn to analyze a situation before you react to it. I'm a person who would react to the situation when it happens first. And by react, I don't mean be hysterical about it, or I don't know. But what I essentially mean is feel before actually think through the situation. So sometimes that has led me to seeing a situation in a more exaggerated version than it actually is. So thinking through a situation allows you to react to the situation more logically than you would. And it also helps, especially if you struggle with things like anxiety, because it helps you analyze and break down the situation in bits so that you're able to deal with what exactly you can control and distinguish that from that which you can't control. So still something I'm learning, but so lesson number 7. Learn to set boundaries with people, things, and yourself. In the previous video, I mentioned that I have struggled this summer to set boundaries with my work and my time. And it's still something that I'm learning, and I realize that that is something that is critical to how you function as a person. It helps you establish discipline as well as respect for yourself as well as from other people. So it's very important that you learn to establish boundaries. And if you are in a relationship, it's also another thing that becomes even more important because you're interacting with another person as well. So this applies to any relationship whatsoever, but learning to set boundaries. What does that look like? It looks like saying no at times. And it's something that I'm learning to do and actually enjoying. Saying no. I gave the example of work. One of the ways I have now started to establish boundaries is by just putting my Microsoft Teams on Do Not Disturb when I am not working, because it allows me to attend to other things and other priorities that I have. So even if those priorities just mean resting, that's fine. Even in how you communicate with people, don't allow people to change your plans for you when you have set your mind to do something you want to do. That's how you also set a boundary. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. But setting boundaries is something that I've come to learn, and I'm still learning, even as I go on with life. Number 8, you cannot expect to be in tune with God on one day when you don't dedicate the time to cultivate your relationship with Him on the 6 other days of the week. It's not going to happen. I am a Seventh-day Adventist, and so I take out my Sabbaths, which are Saturdays in the week, to rest, to worship. I either go to church or take a nature walk, or I rest at home. However, I just don't do work, ideally. So, and there are times when I have struggled with how I keep the Sabbath because I haven't spent the time during the week to cultivate my relationship with God. On Saturday, it's not just going to magically happen or miraculously happen that the entire day you're just going to be in tune with God and you're going to be fixated on Him when you don't spend the time to cultivate your relationship with God. It's why sometimes it feels like you're not there. It's because we're not spending the time out of our schedules to just be with God. So it's a hard lesson that I had to confront myself with, but it was the truth. So yeah, so that's something. Number 9, learn to pace yourself. It's very important because it helps you with your self-awareness. And self-awareness means just being aware or knowing where you are at, what your thoughts are, what your current status is. And it's important to pace yourself, especially when you are leading a busy life. If you're a student or have been a student like myself, or you're just working out there, it can get very busy, very, very busy very quickly. And so many things demand our attention on a day-to-day basis. And it's very important for you to take out that time for just yourself, to pace yourself. That could be when you're walking around. Because we live a busy life, it's very easy for us to just walk quickly to and fro. And sometimes I like to just take my time when I'm going wherever, especially if I'm going home. I like to take my time because it allows me to pace myself and just be in my head or my thoughts, while somehow still being conscious of my environment, especially when I'm outdoors. Another way in which I pace myself is I like to take that time to myself before I fall asleep. So it allows me to reflect on my day and just reflect on where I am mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So it's important for you to pace yourself because it helps you build your self-awareness. Okay, so this one is still something I am learning to do, but I am proud of having implemented it in at least one case. So yeah, I'm gonna share this with you. Indifference. It's so hard, but yeah, indifference. Indifference means treating people who may have hurt you like you would any other person without having to pretend. What do I mean? It means if, say, a person who may have hurt me comes into my space or my work area or just wherever I am, I shouldn't just treat them as badly or ignore their being, especially if they are reaching out to me. When you're indifferent, you're able to interact with the person whilst you maintaining your boundaries in a way that's genuine, if that makes sense. And even if, say, they did something wrong to you, it doesn't really affect you because you know what to expect in a way, even if you're not resentful about it, Yeah, if that sort of makes sense. But I've come to believe, before I used to wonder what true forgiveness meant and how you interact with people. That is, whether if I forgive a person, I'm supposed to let them back into my life, or if I forgive a person, I'm allowed to cut ties with a person. But I've come to understand, with the help of my partner and my family, that when you're indifferent to a person, you genuinely forgive the person. It doesn't mean you allow them back into your life, but it also doesn't mean you just cut them off in the sense that they don't exist to you, even if you crossed paths with them. It means true healing. You're able to interact with the person as if they never hurt you, but also being consciously aware of your boundaries and how far you go with the person, if that makes sense. So it's something that I'm trying to learn and establish as I move forward. But yeah, I've come to also have an actual experience with that, and it's great. Honestly, it feels good. There's one person a former friend that I had, who really, really hurt me, and they were never apologetic, genuinely apologetic, even in their actions, but they would come back into my space. And even after confronting the situation, they never really changed their ways. But I've learned, I learned to be indifferent because I genuinely loved and cared for this person. And so even when they come to me, I don't feel resentful. I do remember what had happened, but not in a state, in a sense of I'm angry with this person, or I feel resentful towards them. I remember in a way that allows me to establish my boundaries around this person, how far I will go and how far they can go with me. So yeah, lesson number 11. Do not use affirmations to mask your inner issues. What do I mean by that? I think it's important for you to remind yourself of your strengths fairly often. And I specifically say fairly often instead of on a daily basis, because sometimes it's very easy to get lost in telling yourself, I am beautiful, I am confident, I am this and this and this, in order to influence self-love, but then ignoring the core issues that don't allow you to really genuinely love yourself. And sometimes it's very easy to mask that, thinking that, oh, all I need is affirmations for me to get to a point where I genuinely love myself. But in actuality, there are some core issues that you are avoiding dealing with. And so I think affirmations are important, but it's very important for you to also be aware and conscious of the probability of you using affirmations to actually mask or ignore core issues that really do need your attention.
Doing great.
Thanks, Faye. Number 12, accept and embrace your strengths. Yeah. Okay, so this speaks to me very much so, because I had a habit of nitpicking my weaknesses and not really embracing what my strengths are. Because I guess I had this idea of false humility, where I felt that humility meant putting myself down, or being so conscious and aware of what my weaknesses are that I don't acknowledge what my strengths are. So it hindered me from just accepting that, oh yeah, I do have strengths, I do have unique qualities that allow me to decipher certain situations, you know. So yeah, I think it's important to identify what your strengths are, accept them, and embrace them and utilize them. Okay, so lesson number 13, touching on to what I just previously talked about regarding humility. Humility doesn't mean speaking poorly of yourself and undermining your achievements. I will give an example of this. I took general chemistry in my sophomore year, and at the beginning of that was a nightmare for me because I was so traumatized by my experience in A-levels. If you took A-levels at UNZA with Dr. Tembo as your chemistry professor, you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, it was just not it. I was so intimidated by the idea of taking this class, and I didn't think I would do well. I felt like it would be a repeat of my experience doing general chemistry in A-levels. I thought I was just going to fail. I didn't think I could do well in this class or excel in it. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it took counseling, it took God to change and it took me pushing myself to just study and make sure that I do well. I had to change my mindset, consciously tell myself that I can do it. I'm not going to allow this to defeat me or to determine how well I actually do in a class. I'm not going to let my fear of it do that to me, to impede my growth. So yeah, I did that, and I started acing the class, so much so that I became a tutor for the class whilst I was still taking it. So I was doing well, but I had this mindset that, you know, I had absolutely no no play, no part in it. I was just a vessel, essentially. I had this idea that God would just come into me on my way to the test, and then he would disappear when the test is done. Like, I thought that's how it worked, but it doesn't, you know. I never told myself, oh, Faith, you've done well. Like, no, I just would say, oh, it was just good, you know. It was just good, it was just God, in such a way that was even damaging to my own self-esteem and my confidence in my ability to do well in a certain area, you know. And so I came to learn that that was a false idea of humility that I had. God has given us abilities. They are God-given abilities to do well, you know, in certain areas of our lives. And it's not, I believe that it's not pride to say, oh, I've done well, I actually spent time to study. Or in my case, it's very easy for me to, in a class that say involves math, for me to just grasp the concept in a lecture, and I'm grateful for that ability. You know, it's not pride to say, oh, I actually did well, or I'm happy that I did well, I excelled in this and I'm good at it. That's not pride. I think pride comes in when we think we are the source of those abilities. So I think it's great to still attribute our successes to God, but I think it's also important to just know that, okay, I do have these abilities, in a way that's not insulting to him, if that makes sense. I think it's actually insulting to God when we put ourselves down, you know, and think, oh, we are just used in that moment, and then those abilities are taken away from us. I don't think that's how God created us. He gave us these abilities to utilize for his glory. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, humility is not putting yourself down. It's understanding where your abilities and your strengths come from, and just appreciating that and being honest about it and saying, you know what, I did my part and I did well. So yeah. Lesson number 14. It's okay to question, because God is not intimidated by my questions. That's something that I've come to learn in my walk with God. I'm a person who likes to ask. I like to ask why. And I remember being told once when I was younger, I can't recall if it was at church or by someone, just someone telling me that it's not okay to question God or to express doubt. But I've come to realize in my walk with God that God is not intimidated by me questioning certain things that he does or questioning who he is. He's God. He can answer every single thing I have to ask. And so it's okay for you to ask. Don't be afraid in your spiritual walk not to ask questions or to say, God, I don't understand this. It's not adding up. Please explain yourself, reveal yourself. God is not afraid of doing that. So yeah, I hope that will free somebody, because I understand what it's like to be in a relationship with God where you sort of view him as a person you can't ask questions. Lesson number 15. Love is not complicated, guys. So I had this idea of romantic love, especially. It was influenced by our society. That, you know, I had to somehow learn how to decipher the male mind, you know, and that love is complicated from how you interact with a person. You know how people tell you, oh yeah, you have to wait a few minutes or hours or what to respond to a message, even though you're available at that time. Simple things like that. Or how I need to play mind games with somebody, you know, which annoys me. Guys, I don't like mind games. It irritates me. But I've come to realize that, and that's just like a little bit of it. There are more complicated things. But I've come to realize that love itself is not complicated when you're with the right person. You communicate. I like to communicate. So if you're with somebody who is compatible for you, that would not be an issue. It just flows. It's easy. It makes sense, you know. So I want to be able to clear that in you guys' thoughts, to say, You don't have to feel like love is complicated or that you have to decipher so much. Like, no, that's unnatural. Love is not complicated. Outside of a romantic love, it's still not complicated. Love is great, it's beyond human reasoning, but it's also simple, which is the paradox. But yes, it's really not complicated. It's pure, it's beyond our human understanding because it's so beautiful and so grand, but it's not complicated, if that sort of makes sense. But yeah. All right, so number 16. This is one that my mom told me of, shared with me just recently, and I found it to be very helpful because a lot has been going on and it's affected my general mood. And so her sharing that with me helped me just put things into perspective and has also helped me just navigate through my days better. And that is that the devil is working hard at every minute of the day to cause us to curse God. And so that has allowed me to just be aware of that, such that regardless of all the things that are happening, like the bad things that are happening, I should bear in mind that it's the devil's work and that, God is still with me, and I shouldn't allow the devil to win and for me to be so down that I just curse God or I'm depressed, because that's exactly what the devil wants out of me, for me to be depressed, to be downtrodden, and I don't want to allow that. I believe that even in the midst of all kinds of sorrow, because I've been through that, there is joy. So I'm choosing now to look at the little things that could bring me joy and to focus my energies on that, and also just have faith that God has good plans for my life, better plans than I could imagine, even though my external environment doesn't give me that impression for the most part. So yeah, I think that's something I would encourage you to just think about even before you react to the situation that you're currently in. Number 17, learn to be present. Be present because tomorrow is really not promised to us. I think it's something that I especially have been trying to implement and practice because I'm the type of person who likes to live in my future. Almost every moment of the day, I'm thinking of a future version of myself and where I want to be it tomorrow, months later, or a year, or 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I'm picturing the future version of myself that I don't really enjoy my present moments. And it takes away my today, which I currently have, when I'm busy envisioning a tomorrow, which I really don't know whether I have. And if you're like me, I would encourage you to just check in with yourself and be cautious of that. Like, check yourself. When you start to daydream and get so fixated on this future version of yourself, bring yourself back to today and be present. It also allows you to enjoy your current moments and acknowledge the good things that you already have and the things that maybe the previous version of yourself was hoping for that you're totally just taking for granted. So yeah, be present. 18. Something that I've come to learn about myself is that I am an empath, but I'm also intuitive. And I used to feel like being an empath was a bad thing because it meant that I take on the energies of people around me, or whatever burdens people are carrying, I'll feel it with them, and sometimes it stripped me away of my own peace and my own joy. So I looked at it as a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing, meaning that you're able to relate to what other people are going through. You're able to be more empathetic. And narcissists tend to be attracted to that. And it's very easy for you to be taken advantage of by a person who's narcissistic if you're not aware. And that's where the intuitiveness or the intuition comes in. And it's something, another strength of mine that I'm trying to learn to appreciate and also utilize. Because there are times that I've looked back at certain decisions that I've made. I'm like, I knew not to do this. Like, I knew not to accept this person in my life. I was aware of these things, which should have been enough to alert me to say, not this, But I still doubted my intuition and said, I'm just being judgmental and it's wrong of me. I'm a Christian and whatnot. But looking back, I now am able to distinguish between being intuitive and also just being a very judgmental person. And I realize I'm more so on the intuitive end of the spectrum. And this is something that I've also come to appreciate when it comes to how I interact with different groups of people. There are people today who before I used to wonder I just don't understand, and not that I would treat them differently, but I'm just be wondering why don't I click with this person? Why don't I, and not in a bad way, in the sense that we're not friends or we're enemies or no, but why isn't there that chemistry there, and I realize in the long run no wonder I couldn't be friends with this friend. No wonder it was not happening, this was just off. And I've had that experience so many times, and it's I thank God, I thank God. But then I'm coming to realize that in other situations, something told me something was not at peace, to say, hey, this one, it's not happening. I'm not free as I could possibly be with other people. And I realized that's my intuition coming to play, and it's something that I should utilize. So if you're like me, or you do realize that you maybe have a different strength that you usually tend to ignore, utilize that. It's a gift, utilize that for your own good. It helps you dodge so many situations that you can and you shouldn't be in. So 19. Fear of failure is not a good enough reason for you to stop chasing your dreams. And especially now when I'm transitioning from being a student to working life, there are lots of things I'm afraid of. Not being good enough. Imposter syndrome is kicking in. Fear of moving to a totally different environment, which I don't understand. I literally moved to a whole continent, but somehow there's a part of me that's nervous about having to move between states. Doesn't really make sense to me. But all those things are kicking in, and all because I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of not thriving. And to the point where there are times when I thought, let me just stay in my bubble. But that's not a good enough reason. I should trust that wherever I'm going and wherever God is leading me, I will be capable of fulfilling that. And if I don't already have the qualifications to meet those demands, I will learn, just as everybody else learns, So number 20. Yeah, this list is long. 20. I am a sensitive person, and I'm learning that it's something that I should embrace. And sensitive, I used to say emotional, but my partner doesn't allow me to say emotional anymore. I'm a sensitive person. And that is, I guess maybe in a way it may be tied to my being an empath, but I just cry easily. I express my emotions very easily, and at times, in different stages of my life, that's been used as a negative thing, or it's a bad thing that I can express how I feel. But I realize that it's actually a strength of mine, that I'm able to express feeling. There was a point in my life where I became numb. I couldn't cry, I just didn't feel because of external situations. I just couldn't feel, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that. And now I appreciate that I can easily cry. I am in tune with my emotions. I I appreciate that I cry when I'm sad, I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm excited. I literally cry all the time. But I just find beauty in that now. So yeah, it's also something I'm confident in, something that I've learned about myself. So yeah, I guess. Number 21, there is freedom in self-awareness. And I say so because I feel like, tying to what I had talked about previously regarding masking or using other things to block your confronting the issues that you're dealing with internally. I feel like sometimes, we do that because we're too scared to deal with who we are as people, what exactly is going on, or previous traumas, but I've come to realize that it's freeing to be self-aware in the sense that I'm able to confront the things that are going on within me and also outside. So, and I find that freeing because I know myself. I know who I am. I know when something is off. Even if you came to me and started saying, "Oh, Faith, yeah, what, yeah, like this." No, I know myself, such that I don't have issues with that because I'm doing the hard work of confronting my own issues. And I find that freeing. So I do encourage you to start mustering up the courage to confront the issues that you may be dealing with internally, because it allows you to be self-aware, and that is freeing. It helps you even in your relationships with other people, because you know what your weaknesses are, you know what your strengths are, the things that you deal with, such that you're able to relate with other people whilst being, at least for the most part, conscious of your effect on the people around you, or your influence on the people around you, if that makes sense. Number 22, don't allow how people treat you to affect your peace of mind. Now, I'm sharing this with you because it's something that I have experienced. I have allowed my peace of mind to be affected by how people have treated me, especially in situations where I do sense passive aggression from a person. And that's not okay, especially when you communicate with the person and they're still giving you the same energy. That's not okay. But that's where you use your indifference, to allow you to maintain your peace of mind. Because if you communicate with a person and they share with you that, oh, you've done nothing wrong, but you still sense passive aggressive tendencies from the person, you haven't done nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. And you must protect your peace of mind, most especially in that situation. Especially if you're in a situation where, say for example, you live with the person or you work with the person in close proximity. Practice indifference in that situation, because it allows you to protect your peace of mind. Also, just carry on with life as usual. And it's hard to do that. Trust me, I know that. It's hard to do that because it weighs on you, especially when you care about a person and you like to live at peace with people. But it's something to learn, because there are people who are just energy vampires. They will suck the life out of you, and for whatever reason, they enjoy to do that. That's their trauma. Don't allow that to take away your peace and your joy. It's not healthy. And so it's something that I'm still learning, because the truth of the matter is, in life you'll encounter so many people like that, and I know that I will likely encounter more people like that. And so it's something that I'm trying to implement even more, trying to learn how to maintain and protect my peace, because it's really, peace is something that's rare in this world. So it's definitely something worth protecting, and I don't want anybody to take that away from me. So yeah, I wouldn't want that for you as well. So yeah. Number 23, the last of the 23. Don't forget to be honest with yourself. And I don't mean that only in regards to being honest about things you're doing wrong or things that need you to work more, or things that need your attention more. I also mean the good things. Be honest with yourself about the good that you're doing and who you are as a person, as well as areas that may need your work. Tell yourself that you love yourself. This is very important, very, very important. Other people can tell you so many things that they love about you, or they can tell you that they love you, but it will not matter if you don't even love yourself, you know? And so be honest with yourself. Cultivate a relationship with yourself. Make time for you. There are so many things and so many people that demand our attention. And also sometimes it's easy for us to deliberately give up our time because we don't want to do with us, you know? But it's something to really work on, because it's important for you to just take the time for just you, you know, and to show yourself some love. So I talked about how self-love means being honest with yourself, confronting the things, your core issues, you know. It also means just taking care of yourself. And you have to be honest about what your needs are, you know, and that maybe, you know, your temporary, short-term needs, maybe wants, but also things that will benefit you in the long run. So be honest with yourself about what those things are, because it's also a form of showing yourself love, because you're showing yourself foresight for the future, the same way you would in any other relationship with somebody else. So yeah, be